let's define expectations early. This is a big deal. If instead of approaching employment law, especially in this vital area called employee discipline, from the aspect of, we're going to enforce the law on you, you know what, let's do some preventative work ahead of time by defining expectations. So that we're going to continue looking on the different aspects of what really is involved, I want to talk about the interactive engaging methods and sit down and continue the aspect of teaching people exactly what the expectations are. Pay attention to the aspect of catering to different learning styles. You really have three different types of learning styles. You have those people who learn primarily by seeing things. You have people that also learn by hearing things, auditory sounds, and you have people also that work very well with tactile learning, in other words, writing or doing things with their hands. Ideally, if you're doing a really good orientation period, you want to sit down and have them involved with all three styles. I really do push a couple of things in the aspect of how to study properly. Study, make certain you take notes. Now, there's a difference between taking notes on a computer and also writing things out. When you write things out, you're engaging the neuromuscular structure of your body and moving a pen. To move a pen sounds really easy, except for the fact to do so, you have to be able to hear and see what's going on, and then actually your body has to move, and to some extent you're having a muscle memory because your body's working harder. Your body's working harder, and it's following the tracking of your eyes and your ears in the process. Cater to the learning styles. Make certain that you have an engaging orientation. Make it interesting. Give a tour. Walk down the aisle over here. Make certain that when they go home from work in the first week, that they're excited about being there. Build that engagement, because including them as part of the team is a big thing. Provide them informative resources. We used to have a span of control of 5 to 6 people per each supervisor. Now, the span of control is much broader because of the fact that you have a couple things. Number one, everybody wants to have the flat organization, and that's really cute on paper, except if you don't have a solid orientation and define your expectations on each employee, you're going to lose it and have sloppy service, which we're seeing an awful lot in today's market. Nowadays, in today's market, if you're on top of your game, you can have top performing people out there, and just the fact that you're performing and responding to human beings as a human being, you will grow your business probably much faster than all the geeks out there trying to sit down and force everybody into a website that doesn't respond to you whatsoever. Have informative resources to let your clients know, but also to let your employees know what you're looking. Real world skill practice. When it comes down to an orientation, even in the hiring process, I always encourage people to have a content validity on all testing. Show them the content of the job you expect them to do. Give them examples of the content of the job you want them to do. And in that process, sit down there and carry on with carrying that right into the world. Give somebody a basket of work that you expect them to do during orientation and see how they do. Let them ask questions. Park them next to a mentor for an entire morning and sit down and have them do a basket with the mentor showing them, do this, do this, do this. Do the actual work. Collaborative learning. Have a group if you need to. If you're hiring 2 or 3 in the same position, have them all working with the same mentors. You all have the same dialogue going on. And you also, in the meantime, you're building that relation. Foster relationships. The more they feel they belong in the organization, the better they're going to respond to some of their peers, and some of the people that have been around longer also respond back to them by building a sense of community, having employee engagement in the process. Measure success and continuous improvements. You know, there's something really different about the aspect of assessment. Different generations accept it differently. The baby boomers do not like assessment. Generally, they don't like giving it. They don't like doing it. When you come down to the millennials and the Gen Xers, they tend to absorb it. But now we have Gen Z full blown into the marketplace. So you have 4 different generations. You pretty much always will have 4 different generations, but they like to have a lot of assessments. They also want to be a vice president by the ripe old age of 23. So every time they have an assessment, they want to get a raise. It doesn't always work that way. So anyhow, get feedbacks, do surveys, discussions, look for areas of improvements, try to find areas for performance metrics out there. If you have a great orientation period and you're doing a lot of assessment, that employee will know how they're doing in the eyes of their supervisor and the people that assess them overall, and you may totally avoid ever having to do employee discipline, which is why we're covering this here before you actually have to go out there and deal with the ugly things such as employment release. You can sit down there and capture that person, keep them involved, keep them engaged, and keep them around and avoid that extra cost as well of actually trying to replace them. Make change. I encourage you during the orientation period to have the people take notes as to what is going on and what they don't understand, and that they think this really isn't very smart. Why is it that we have to walk around the plant every time we walk down this aisle over here? Why not just move the plant? Something as simple as that. Let them ask those questions. Have them keep a list of stuff, because in the middle of a workday, if they come across something that's really weird, they make a note on it, stick it in their desk, and come back later on, put it in their computer, whichever way they do it. Encourage note-taking during the orientation, but also those first 6 months are invaluable to you as an employer. So make certain the orientation is at the forefront and the burner in the aspect of making certain the employee is right there. It's important. A lot of times supervisors are so busy, they think they're so busy, they can't spend time with the new employee. They need to spend time every single day with a new employee. It doesn't have to be all day. The first day should be a couple hours minimum before they turn it over to anything, but make certain every day. And then at least once a week for the first month, and then at least once every other week during the first 6 months. The supervisor needs to do that. Don't let anybody dump it off on human resources. The human resources, they don't know what the day-to-day activity is in the job. Oh, sure, they can read it, except for the fact they don't know the expectations of the supervisor. Orientation is the job of the supervisor and the site manager to make certain that it's happening properly. Enhanced employee retention. I mentioned before, here's a simple truth. When somebody leaves an organization, by the time you go through the recruiting process and all the expenses of bringing somebody on board, it's going to cost you the equivalent of 6 months of salary is what the data tells us, as to sit down and bring somebody else on board and have them catch up to where the last person left. Always look at continuous improvement. You are not a perfect organization, and use that new brain you have coming in, somebody else's perception in the process, to make certain that you're capturing that awe, that actually, well, how can we do this? That questioning, capture that. It will help your organization immensely, and the newbie can sit down and always have input as to how things are run, and that builds community on top of that. Orientation is the beginning of making certain you could have solid employee discipline, not punishment, but discipline in the aspect of having them structured, having them know the expectations, and having them be proud of where they work. Take care.